Okay, go on.
Okay, you know how I've given the reasons why I think there's suffering?
Correct.
Do you think that my reasons are legit and they're not over hasty, or do you think I am being too either simplistic or trying to find reasons when they're not sufficient in like it's not the point to try to find reasons, but I'm trying to find reasons anyways. I mean, how do you see like what? Because you've heard what I've come up with as far as why I think there's that we suffer, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think of what I've come up with?
Well, can you remind me of one of the reasons?
I'll read you the list if you give me just a moment.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've got my list. I just have to pull it up. Oh, I love Job. I love that book so much.
Right.
I remember being kind of fascinated by it when I was a kid, and not really being able to completely relate because I hadn't had the experience. I hadn't had all the experience of suffering, but it intrigued me, and I was fascinated by it, and I wanted to understand, but at the same time I was very frightened of understanding, because I knew if I was going to understand, that meant that I would have to suffer.
But we suffer whether we understand or not. But when we understand the suffering, then I think we have justified why we suffer when we know why we suffer.
Yeah. At least to some degree. Well, here's my reasons, okay?
Yeah.
I believe that everything we go through now, I'm reading this, I believe that everything that we go through now, including suffering and death, will be redeemed, that he has good purposes and reasons for everything he does and allows. Although you and I know that allows is almost a misnomer, because everything that happens according to him purposing it to happen. Otherwise it could not happen. So, anyways, I'll keep on reading. Even if it is beyond our understanding of what all of those purposes and reasons are, but they include building trust and character, growth. You okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Growth, conforming us into the image of Mashiach, sharing in his sufferings, which is a huge honor. Correction, giving us knowledge of and illustrating the character of Yahweh and what is contrary to him, and not only his character, but actually knowing him, which I really believe is like actually a huge thing, because I think that's what our existence is all about, is getting to know our Creator. That's the entirety of our lives, and so I think that's everything that happens. Every positive and negative thing, what we consider positive and negative. Understanding and appreciating not only what is bad and evil, but even more goodness, beauty, and love. Increasing and deepening sympathy and compassion. Building knowledge and skills needed for the next life. Benefiting others, and revealing our deep and intense need for him and his ruling, and that his great plan will prevail, which is to bring to maturity all of creation, and then to create anew and to conform us into the likeness of his Son, which is his image, and to reveal the ultimate, the full essence and substance of Yahweh. Yep. Yeah, that's what I think it is, to reveal the ultimate. But I would also say that since he is love, I think that that love is the primary. I think love is the primary reason for it and for everything. But I think definitely for suffering and for difficulty and anything that we agonize over, anything like that.
Yes, I like your list.
Oh, good.
Yes. I think that we suffer because we are His creation. He's the Creator. Whether we suffer or we don't suffer, whether we're happy or sad, sick or not sick, it's part of the animation, part of our animation, the way we are being allowed to exist, whether suffering or not.
Yeah, I agree.
And so He's the Creator. We're His creation. Is God just in allowing us to suffer? God cannot be judged because He has no equal, and we are not His equal. Therefore, what He does to us, even though it makes us angry, to Him it doesn't really matter, or maybe it does matter, but it has to be this way so that He could prove or come across with, like, the points that you brought up. And therefore, if there is no suffering, there could be no healing. If there is no suffering, there can be no compassion. And if there is no suffering, there can be no mercy, which are all qualities of love: compassion, mercy, and caring. And since He is fully love, then He will have compassion on His creation, but He has to animate it in suffering so that He can bestow compassion. I think that it kind of hurts Him a little bit, or maybe a whole lot. I don't know if it's a little bit or a whole lot, but it does hurt the Creator that He has to animate suffering to bring the point across, but it's very vital. But eventually, all suffering will be done away with, and when we have our glorified bodies and we are eternal beings, then we will not know suffering anymore. There will not be a contrast, so we will not know suffering, we will not know mercy, we will not know healing, because we will no longer be human. So to say, is God just in allowing us to be animated the way that we are? I would say yes. Yet God created and animated us, and within the human species we need justice, we need laws and regulations for ourselves, and these laws and regulations govern us as human beings so that we can know how to live according to the laws and regulations of love and respect, and not to steal, not to murder, not to lie, and so on and so on. And so justice is a word that only applies for people, because I think maybe we we justify ourselves when He animates us to justify ourselves in accepting after we have been forced to accept, right? And so we understand, not to its totality, but to a certain point, we understand God is just, the Creator is just in His animation of the universe and of human suffering and the chaos in the universe, because not only is humanity suffering, but the universe suffers also, and one day it will all be done away with, because the Creator wants the universe and His human creation, His children, to worship Him, to glorify Him, and to honor Him. And if there is not chaos, then I don't think that we could totally give Him the reverence that He needs. Period.
I agree with everything you said except one little thing.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that in a second. But you said so much, and there's so much I want to comment on, and I agree with. So I'll try to remember as much as I can. Okay, I we're not in a position to judge because we don't have adequate information. So we would have to be able to see, like, say, with, say, some suffering that you have, okay? You have to see all of the effects that suffering is going to produce. So, like, say something happens, whether you stub your toe or you crack a tooth or whatever it is, that's some kind of suffering that you have, whether you caused the suffering or not is almost irrelevant. Something happens and you suffer either through your actions or through someone else's actions or something else's actions. Somehow you suffer. So you don't know, none of us know the full implications, the full ramifications and effects that suffering is going to have, either on you with like the rest of your life, and not just the rest of your life, but your next life, because you're going to live again. I mean, that's the fact and truth and reality for every single human being, is everyone's going to, when they die, it's going to be like going to sleep. They're not going to have consciousness, and eventually they're going to wake up, and it's going to be like not much time has passed as far as like when you go to sleep and when you wake up. I mean, unless you dream, there's really not a sense of loss of time usually. So everybody goes to sleep. So whatever suffering has happened, there's going to be effects from that suffering that will be effects for you, not only for the rest of your life, but into the next life. And none of us are able to predict what those effects will be. And you may have effects on other people. And of course, since the Creator is love, and the Creator instructs all of us to love, that's His design for humanity, and His design will be accomplished, even if it's not. I don't think it's going to be fulfilled for anyone in this life. That the instruction to love Him and love each other, none of us really completely fulfill it in this life, but it will be fulfilled. So in the next life, it's going to be fulfilled. I'm trying to remember what my point was. So maybe part of the reason you're suffering is in fulfillment of love, because that's really His instruction, and that's what all of His instructions, like all the instructions that you were talking about, don't murder, don't rape, don't steal, all those things, they all revolve around, they're all breakdowns of the instruction to love. And that's what we're made for, because we're made to be like the Creator, and since the Creator is love, we're made to be loved too, but we're in the process. Right now we're just in the process. And part of that process obviously, I think, involves suffering and difficulty. And then, so I think,